Thank you. I almost lost. I couldn't find the gate because I was here 2022. I think that was hell,
Yes.
just before the elections. But thanks for having me. It's an honor to be here. It's always a pleasure to be on QTV.
Fantastic. First, Mr. Kamaso, let's talk about you contested the GFF elections in 2022 against Lamin Kababaji. Of course, you lost in that elections. How have you been catching up with football since then in terms of administration and other things that you've been doing? What have you really been engaging?
Thank you, Mr. Gajaga. And thanks to the viewers as well, those who have tuned in on TV, Facebook, and all the other channels that you're using. When we were vying for the position of president of GFF, we had a vision. And I always say anybody who has a vision should have a roadmap, and then you have the tools that will take you to where you're going. We had a vision that was to uplift and maintain a preeminent standard in Gambian football. That way we can put Gambian football on a pedestal for technical and financial self-sustenance. And because of the vision, we also came up with a mission. The mission was to stimulate interest and passion so that we can increase stakeholder participation, because a lot of people have held back. When we increase stakeholder participation, then we can bring football and its benefits to the doorstep of every Gambian. By so doing, we also wanted to make sure that people are enlightened as to how football is governed, what are the issues that are touching and concerning football. Despite the fact that we lost the election, but we know we stimulated a lot of interest and passion, because for the first time in the history of the Gambia, we saw how the 2022 GFF election, went. Now, after that, we decided that we will share the knowledge and experience that we have with the individuals, the stakeholders, the administrators. And this is something we've been doing, and we've been very, so much in touch with the grassroots football. So we've been helping behind the scenes, helping some of these clubs and the grassroots club, but then we haven't stopped because football is in our DNA.
Yes, looking back a little bit, by the time you were an executive member and also a member of the emergency committee, what would you say were some of your biggest achievements at the time, and if there are any regrets?
I don't have any regrets, to be honest, serving in the GFF executive, because I needed to learn and understand how, governance is at that level. I was a club CEO for 13 years, but that doesn't mean I understand governance at national level. So sitting at the GFF board at the time was a very good learning experience for me. Achievements, I would say we were part of, the team that decided that we were going to come up with a 2-term limit in the constitution in 2018. Then I was also campaigning, and we decided that there is a need for a 2-term limit to come, into play in the GFF constitution. And that is one thing that, we're using up to date, unless it is changed, because I hear rumors that, that might change, and I hope not. But we've also tried to ensure that the clubs understand better. The other thing we did was I went as part of a team to go and learn how clubs can become professional. I did the training in Morocco, and that was something I believed would have been, implemented, but unfortunately it hasn't been implemented. So I would say for me, it was a learning experience to be there to understand how governance is done, but I also believe that a lot is there to be done that has not been done, which should put us on a pedestal for us to take Gambian football to where it should be.
When it comes to your team restore confidence, after the elections, you haven't gone quiet like many would do. I've seen people who contested GFF election once and then that was it. They're no longer, even if they're interested in football, but people don't see them kind of coming up with anything in order to push in terms of governance, maybe to seek for position again. But you and your team have been kicking on since, whether it's through social media, whether it's through interviews. Tell us what kept you going all this long.
It's not just on social media and interviews. We've been helping clubs on the ground, like I said. I mean, the situation has now gotten to a point where clubs are even scared to associate themselves directly with me or anybody that is associated with me. I mean, even these trials that I help facilitate, I'm not an agent. I help facilitate these trials. You'll have clubs that will call me and say, hey, I'm sorry, I cannot come. I've seen clubs being expelled, for being associated with you, so please allow us not to come. You invite some clubs and they don't come, but the clubs who understand would come, and they're lucky to have their players gone. It's the interest that we have for Gambian football to develop. It is service above self. It is not just my personal interest. That was why from the beginning I was against people calling it Team Kamaso. I didn't want it personalized. I wanted it to be something that was a process, something that was a project. I may not be here 2026, but then the process continues. So we didn't want to confine it within that short parameter. So the idea is Gambian football has to get to another level, because we've seen what our neighbors are doing. We are not here to just win elections or not win elections and go away. What we want is for Gambian football to develop and develop for better. When COVID monies came, the idea FIFA had was women's football should develop for good. Football should develop and get to the next level. But it hasn't. So if people sit down and they tell you, yeah, football moving, Gambian football is moving, then you understand there is a fundamental problem. And this is the problem we are trying to solve.
And still, when it comes to Gambian football, some of the challenges, the Gambian national team made a historic qualification. We all remember back in 2021 when we got to our first AFCON in Cameroon, and then that was followed by a subsequent qualification to Cote d'Ivoire, where I was also had the experience, my first experience to cover AFCON. Yeah. But looking at the development of the game at the grassroots level, what's your opinion? Do you think we've gone a little bit far in terms of development at the age categories and then academy levels and even infrastructure?
Honestly, I'll say no, we haven't. If we were to be examined, we would have failed. Because whatever you do, I say you use a yardstick to measure the success. Every time people will tell you, oh, Gambian football has developed, some people, a few people, because even the GFF would attribute their success to Gambia's qualifications to the African Cup of Nations, which is not. I always say you don't look at a shiny roof and then you tell me that building is okay, because that's the top, that's the apex. And most of the players who are playing there are playing international. There's no local based player in the national team. So what you do, if you want to measure the success of our football, you look at the domestic football. I've said this before. I mean, if you look at the Premier League, England, when was the last time England won the World Cup or the Euro? But the Premier League is the best league, like it or not, because they have a very good domestic league. So for you to measure the success of your football, the ecosystem in your country, you look at the domestic league. Our domestic league is in a deplorable state. By now, the Gambia Football Federation should not even be running the league. There should be a league management body. That is what happens. Senegal, they have the FSF, which is the federation, but the league is run by a body. You have a business model. That's what happens. In Morocco, when we went to do the study, you have the Botola League. It's run by a separate company. They have their own secretariat. All these other countries. So the Premier League is different from the FA in England. People need to understand that. So for the Football Federation to develop, they should focus on promotion and development and allow these bodies to be established. That is something that you need to do. And you know, when those people are there, they understand that the league is ours. They have their own general secretary, they have their own president, they have all the different committees. So nobody is going to feel that somebody is going to exercise excessive powers on me and get away with it.
Is it as easy as you were saying, like there should be an oversight body that looks into the league like you have in the Ghana Premier League, the ones running that is not the Ghana Football Federation? Is it something that can be done? Is it something that is ignored, or is it, you know, has to do with capacity, finance and all those things?
I don't think it's got to do with capacity and finance, because there is a program from UEFA called the UEFA Assist. I remember UEFA was here and they engaged a few clubs. This was years back, some 4 or 5 years ago. You know, Used and Jeff Wilson and them, they were here. They engaged a few clubs and it all went down the drain. I was part of the first team that was talking to them, exchanging ideas as to what needed to be done. And sometimes he'll ask, who's that guy? And like Saribu, I said, because I've done some, you know, experiment, I've made some research, and I've also gone to Morocco to understand this. And this was something that I pushed for when I was at the Federation. To do that, you need to engage the clubs now and set up criteria. Even CAF has now putting up a criteria. That's the club licensing. You have the legal infrastructure, sporting, admin, and finance. The legal means you have to be registered, because most of the clubs here are registered as associations. You need to have a business model. You cannot run a charity and expecting to be running a business. You have to have an infrastructure, you have to have a clubhouse, have an agreement with your club, with a stadium, or have your own pitch where your games are played. So you have to have a fixed address. The admin and finance, the admin and personnel, you need to have staff that you have an agreement with. Finance, you need to have your audited account submitted to the federation, and all these things have to be in place. So if you look at the grassroots here, Gajaga, this is something that is really fundamental. The way our football is structured, you have the first division that is up there, you have the second division, then you have the third division. The third division is where you have all these regional football associations being in charge. Basically, that's the grassroots. Even the academies are under the regional football associations. So if you want to have a proper structure in place, what do? The foundation has to be correct. If you're building any strong building, you have to have a strong foundation. If the foundation is not good, what do you expect? Whatever you put on top will fall down. So all these academies, these third division clubs are just going through these things, and nobody's there to control, nobody's there that is going to police whatever is happening. So they just go there, on autopilot. They find themselves in the second division and subsequently in the first division, and then there's nothing. So if there is no proper structure from the grassroots level, then we have a fundamental problem. That's why I said you don't look at a shiny roof and you tell me that house is okay. The foundation is what you look at. So if we want to make sure our football works, let us not look at the AFCON qualification or the Chan team playing. Let us make sure the foundation is okay. If the foundation is okay, then you don't have a problem selecting a U15, a U17. Look at the Senegalese U17 team, Jambars, the Generation Foots, because they have a proper youth structure. So it's easy for them to do that. They can call those players to come or have a tournament, then they can select.
But sorry, but these things don't come without proper infrastructure. How do we get the infrastructure? Because Gambia is not a country that is endowed with, let's say oil money where you can have pitches all over the place. Is it a chunk of the development money that comes to the federation that they would have to put into infrastructure? Or is it the local councils that we have who should build mini parks, mini stadia for football to thrive at that level? Because these kids, was it yesterday I was at the Bakau mini stadium where I saw the Tijan Jete Academy, playing football, but they were basically playing on a supposed grass pitch, but almost half of the pitch is sandy and bumpy and all of that, grumpy. So it's really, really terrible
See, the thing
for infrastructure.
Is, FIFA understands that not governments are very rich or financially endowed. And that's why Infantino, being visionary, came up with the FIFA Forward program. There was Forward 1. When I started talking about these things during the 2022 elections, people say he's just campaigning, he's just talking nonsense. But people have now realized that a lot of money has come into the Gambia that was supposedly for infrastructure, and you cannot show anything for it. Is the GFF being transparent? Have they been accountable to the people, to the stakeholders? FIFA came up with the Forward. 2016 to 2018 was Forward 1. A lot of money came into this country for Forward 1. We were told that, they built boreholes or they did these things and whatnot. We haven't seen them. 2018 to 2022 was when, substantial amount was pumped into this country, because what FIFA does, they give you $4 million in 4 years and another $2 million back then. So it was $6 million within a 4-year period. $1 million in a year, 500,000 in January, 500,000 in July for operational cost. So that is 4 years, 4 million. Then there was another $2 million that was there for specific projects. That 2 million is separate from national team solidarity support that they give you, which is up to about 200,000 or 250. I don't have the figures off head right now. And then you have the equipment solidarity, like the jerseys we're wearing to go and play. There's also another support. There's even separate support for women's football. So FIFA has this, but what FIFA does is the money is here for you, you apply for it. You write, you explain what you need the money for, you show the contract of agreed objectives, there's proof that you have the land and all of that, the funds are released. But they don't give you all the money in one lump sum. FIFA would give you these monies in milestones. Say you've agreed with the consultant and the contractors, they'll give you a certain percentage to go and start. But to be able to activate the other, you need to show that you've completed the first part. For them to show the first part, that usually becomes difficult. So they'll start another project. That was why you had 13 projects.
All supposedly running concurrently.
Concurrently. The only project that I think was successful, well, I believe was successful, was the vehicles that we bought, because that was a turnkey. Because that was also part of the FIFA Forward. You see GFF 6 and there's a FIFA Forward on it. That's a FIFA Forward money. You see the GFF 1, that's FIFA Forward money. GFF 2, GFF 3, GFF 4, GFF 5, those are all FIFA Forward money. Those 2 buses that the national team was supposed to use were all FIFA Forward money. So these other projects like Banjul, Serekunda, Serekunda East, Serekunda West, Brikama, Gunjur, Bakau, gold projects, the, Biri Biri field, those are all FIFA project money, Busumbala. But where is it? Nothing has happened. All of those projects have gone south. And nobody's talking about it. When I was talking about these things, people said, no, Kidafa nekadi campaign. That is why sometimes
they have this argument. I don't know how genuine it is when it comes to projects, like projects being allocated to contractors and contractors failing to deliver, like failing to deliver on time, and then they would have to change the contractor again. Like in the case of Gunjur, there have been several delays from 2018, I think it was up till 2024, late 2024 when the field was delivered, or almost, in fact, was just grass at the time. They later on said they're going to build the dressing rooms, and I think that project is currently going on. So in that kind of situation, do you still fault them for contractual failures that they've not given it to the right contractors?
I've said it in one of the executive meetings I was seated, and I said if anybody fails us, if any contractor doesn't deliver, they need to be taken to court. Because you have an agreement. A breach of contract, is a breach of contract. There's no such thing, oh no, they've done this, because I remember there was a time I raised this issue and somebody said, yeah, but we've also been late with our payments. Let them take legal action for us being late for our payments. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't take action. I'll tell you, a lot of money has gone to some of these contractors who have disappeared into thin air. They haven't done anything. And they're roaming around the streets with us. If the monies were put into football, look at Serekunda East. I keep saying it and people think, look at Serekunda East. They were able to manage with the pitch. They've done the grass pitch. They've done pavilions. They even share gate takings. I've seen Brikama now have done, they've done a pavilion because the monies that they're receiving are being put, monies meant for football should be put into football. If you invest the money, something comes. And that is where we're having problems because these monies are not being put there. The Gunjur, there was one of the contractors that were told would even go there and borrow cement from the locals. When you've received payment, consultants were receiving their monies, whether they've delivered or not, there was a project manager. So, these are things that, you should be accountable. And for me, I think that is where this autonomy thing comes into play. There's no such thing as absolute autonomy. All these monies being received are received on behalf of the Gambia. If it's for football, yes, but it's on behalf of the Gambia. Why did you think the FBI raided FIFA? Mm-hmm. Why? FIFA is a body of its own, but they're not above the law. People should come and explain. But like I said, we don't even have time for that. What we have time for now is how do we get the football to be on the right path? Because a lot is going wrong at the grassroots level and nobody's policing it. Look at the regional football associations. What's happening there? You have all these regional football associations since they won the elections. A good number of them haven't gone for Congress, haven't had an AGM. You receive money subventions from the federation. You ask the clubs to give you 10,000, 15,000 or 5,000 for registration monies or whatever. And yet you don't even tell them how these monies are spent. There's no activity report. Who's policing this?
That brings me to my next question about Regional Football Association. Their elections upon coming, most of them next month expected. These Regional Football Associations are about to hold their elections, and currently I think you are kind of sensing something or maybe alleging something in terms of influencing the election in favor of the current executive of the Gambia Football Federation. Do you see anything as intangible evidence or that they are trying to poke their nose into the elections?
It's clear, it's evident. When I was an executive member, I remember it was specifically CRR. I sat in one meeting. Before the meeting, somebody called me to say, the elections were marred by irregularities and, there were, some vote rigging and things of that sort. The person didn't provide evidence, but he explained, he was over the phone that said this and this is what happened. I said, well, this is news to me, but when I go, I'll raise the issue. I raised it at the executive where the incumbent at the time was seated. I don't do corner talks. I raised the issue right there. He denied it. And I asked the guy, I said, you should come with facts. But we have seen elections held in URR in 2021 where the elections were held before sunrise, even before the other team came in. I think the NSC, before the NSC got to the place, they were called to say, elections were done and we've already voted.
The candidate declared winner and then
But all these regional football associations are bound by a constitution. And the constitution, as per Article 9, it says the bodies and officials of the association shall observe the statutes. Not just the members, the officials, the bodies. You shall observe the statutes. And that means you should respect and adhere to the rules. Now, as per the constitution, every regional football association president who's been elected, or your running mates, you know you owe the stakeholders a duty of care. You're supposed to go for elections in 4 years, but before that, every year you're supposed to have an annual general assembly where you present the activity reports, you know, the financial statements. Currently, the GFF boasts about that. You will see, you know, where the federation that, you know, we do our congress every year. But you don't go and upload a fish for swimming. That is that's what a fish does. A fish swims. As a body that is running football, you're supposed to go for AGMs. So not doing AGMs is a breach of the fundamental, you know, violations of the constitution. So if you're not going for elections and you don't even provide your members with a copy of the constitution, that is a problem. And as I said in one of my articles, any association in this country that has a constitution, that constitution should be adopted by the members, the date, signed by the president and the general secretary, and a copy deposited at the AG's chambers because they're the body responsible. National Sports Council should have a copy. The federation should have a copy. Because some of these clubs will tell you they don't even have a copy of the constitution. Somebody could go there and amend the constitution. I saw a letter today coming from North Bank region saying they're going for Congress. And, you know, apart from the teams, the Women's Football Association, the coaches, and the Referees Association, the constitution that I saw does not have women's football referees and coaches. So where are you taking that from?
So they kind of imply that those, you know, associations need to be part of the election.
But they don't have that in their constitution
in their
because
constitution.
what most of these regional football associations have done is they edit the GFF constitution mutatis mutandis, where there's GFF they put NBR or CRR or URR. You know, so they'll tell you the first and second division clubs as members. But the regions don't have first and second division clubs. They have third division clubs, except they want to take the academies. I saw that, and I'm struggling to get some of the constitution, but I have 3. So you wonder what constitution are these people using? Where are you getting these members from? And the voting, some of these people would tell you that the voters are the first and second division clubs. And then each club has 1 vote. But there's a region that I'm told the clubs have 2 votes. So what constitution are they using? But who's policing this?
Well, it's going to be very, very interesting. But just to be fair to maybe the federation, some might argue that every administration seeks to consolidate their influence. Is there anything wrong or concerning about this? Because I guess it's sort of a lobbying. They would want in the regional football associations people to be there who align with their policies or their vision of how to run football.
Oh, certainly, it's okay to lobby. That's okay. But then there's some form of independence that should be there. They are bound by a constitution, not the GFF one. They have their own constitution. And as per the provisions of their constitution, there should be an electoral body that should have been elected 1 year before the AGM preceding the Congress.
And this should be a semi-autonomous body.
Semi-autonomous.
Yeah. Fairly impartial.
Exactly. Like we see with the GFF. They bring in independent people. So if the GFF is going there to conduct the elections, in the past it's the GFF that goes there to conduct the elections. How is the independence? So if GFF has an interest in it and they are there to conduct the elections, then there's a problem, Gajaga. Because, I mean, in LRR, I saw a letter that came out to say that the positions for elections are the president, the general secretary, the treasurer, and I wonder which constitution they're using, because it's not in their constitution. Fine. When they did those amendments, I have no idea because we haven't seen it. But they're asking the people who have intention to apply to send the letters to the general secretary, the same general secretary who was going for elections. It's just like President Barrow saying, if you want to go for elections, you have to send your letters of intention to me or my Secretary General, Head of Civil Service, when that position is up for grabs. So there's a possibility of people being treated unfairly. So at least, what we should do for our football to move, we should have some sort of independence and make sure these things are in the right perspective, the right context. We're doing this for generations unborn, not just for one person's interest. It's, service over self.
For some of the things that you've observed and raised concerns about, is there any oversight body where you can lodge your complaint to that in terms of election, there should be transparency, they should not be poking their nose into a particular election which is governed by constitution, like you said, for the regions, and they should abide by those constitutions. And when it comes to the election, there should be fairness, in all honesty. Is there any oversight body where you've raised these concerns to? Apart from, of course, I saw your article on the Standard where you raised the issue on the newspapers as well.
That's why I ask if the regional football associations are above the law, even if the GFF is above the law. Because the ones who are supposed to police that are a party themselves. It's just like you're saying the police are supposed to catch the criminals, and the police are the ones engaging the criminals, overseeing their activities. How will you go to the police? I mean, the Gambia Football Federation knows what's in the constitution of all these regional football associations. They should be the ones, because I saw a letter from the General Secretary telling all these RFAs to notify them of their Congress dates. It should have even come from the RFAs automatically, fine. The GFF was doing their job there, reminding them they should go for Congress. But you're doing your job reminding them, but you know in their constitution they should have an electoral body that should conduct that. These people are even scared to approach the federation. Look at the case in URR. Clubs were expelled, when in the constitution it clearly states that expulsions are under the responsibility of the General Assembly. Expulsions. The Regional Football Association, or even in the GFF constitution, the executive can suspend a member, and that would be subject to the General Assembly adopting or approving of the expulsion or not when you go to court, because the GFF constitution is riddled with those sort of articles that you cannot go to ordinary courts. Fine. Because we do not have a sports tribunal, how many of these clubs can afford to go to CAS?
CAS, Court of Arbitration for Sport.
How long would that even take? When I wrote to CAF, to complain, when I sent my petition to CAF, I sent a petition to CAF, to Gambia Football Federation, to National Sports Council, to Ministry of Youth and Sports, National Assembly Select Committee on Sports. And what I was asking them to do was to ensure that there is fairness so these things don't happen again. I did not receive even one single response from anyone except CAF.
What did CAF say?
CAF said it's an internal matter, that it should be treated here. It's an internal matter that it should be treated in the Gambia, and that is the reason why there should be a sports tribunal so people can go there and complain, because the body which is the GFF that is supposed to do these things is not. I mean, look at the government of the Gambia. They're independent. You have an issue with the government, you go to court. Sometimes you see the other parties win the government. Do you understand? But if the government was exercising their powers excessively, then nobody goes there during Jammeh's era. Who dares take the government to court at the time? So it's like the same issue. For me, what I'm trying to say here is those things are just not right. You could, then that's why I wrote the article. I asked if they are above the law. And who is going to police these things? I think maybe government should be able to come in and say, listen, these things are happening, and it is the youth and sports sector. We have an interest to ensure that nobody's rights are infringed. I see that in Nigeria, when they want to ban certain candidates, they'll tell them no, allow them to go back. We've seen that in Zambia, when the president, the incumbent, wanted to ban all the other clubs, the other, candidates that wanted to. No, they said, no, you cannot do that. It went to an appeals committee, which was very independent. The appeals committee said, no, you cannot ban these people. And eventually, they realized that his term had ended, and he was asked to step aside.
Is it that these clubs that are banned were banned purposely because of the event that you organized there, capacity building event?
I didn't organize the event.
Oh, you didn't organize the capacity building?
Yeah, I was there as a resource person.
Resource person. On the whole, you were not the one who organized it, but you were there.
He was there. He's the managing director of Majak. He was there as the first one we organized was here in Kanifing at the YMCA. But because what I wanted to do was, I realized that a lot of these general secretaries, club CEOs, do not understand.
And was it the regional president in URR exercising, his excessive powers to suspend the clubs, or he got, oversight influence somewhere at the top?
You ask him, how did he even come to call himself the regional FA president? Because as per the constitution, the provisions of the constitutions, like I said earlier, if a person is no more in position, like if the president is permanently deprived from serving as president, the first vice president will act until the next AGM, where they will go for elections and elect another person, just like you have in by-elections. We've seen the by-elections in Banjul, Kiang. You don't say, okay, who was the assistant, you can just come. No. When URR, Furu passed away in 2022. And up to date, you haven't had them go for Congress to elect a president. I am told they just adjusted each other to say, okay, you can now go for president, you can go. No, it is the stakeholders that have the right. And it should, even if the stakeholders, you have to go by the provisions of the Constitution. You have to go for elections. But because some of these stakeholders are scared that they will take their points, or they'll be expelled, or they'll be suspended, and they've been spending resources, so they're scared to come out. But the provisions of the Constitution also says that it is the General Assembly that has the power to expel. Now, the person who's writing that expulsion letter is not even legitimate. He was not voted into office, and the Federation knows. But because, he supports their agenda, they're happy for him to be there.
If the elections were to be held tomorrow, these teams that are suspended, will they be part of the election, or they need to be restored back again for them to have a voting right? And
unfortunately, they cannot. The people who are exercising their powers, we saw what happened here during the Jame era when, somebody has their right and they infringe on your rights. What do you do? Where do you go for redress? You were to go to the courts, and I am told that those people have gone to court. I saw an article last week that says the GFF said they're going to ban, these clubs, if they go to the... They've been banned already. They've been expelled already. What more are you going to do? Are you going to kill them? They've been expelled. Expulsion means you're out. So if they go to the courts, they're seeking redress. And any law in this country that is inconsistent with the laws of the country is null and void to the level of its inconsistency. So you cannot infringe on their rights and you're saying you're going to ban them. I don't know what they go... Because, like I said, I did not organize the training. I get all these clubs that would ask me, how do we do this? How do we claim training commissions? How do we do this? How do we write a letter of protest? Some of these things. And what is the role of the general secretary? Because some of these clubs, you have the president, who's the general secretary, he's the coach, he's the kit manager. And there are other people who are around him, yet they have little or nothing to do. So we thought it's important that we share our expertise. Because when I was general secretary of a club CEO, we were the first team to have a second team, a third team, and an academy. That was a structure we put in place. So I thought it was important for me to share some of these things with these people. But when they came, I said, listen, go and organize yourselves. When you organize yourselves, invite us, and then we will come and share our experience, the little that we know. Sangmendi was ready. We did it here, and Sangmendi was ready. We went. There was nowhere that it says, Sadibu Kamusu training. I did not certify anybody. I did not give anybody a medal or anything. All we did, we gave some teams balls because I always get these requests from teams. I thought there were going to be just 20 or 30 teams, in fact, individuals that were coming from teams. Because we were not, I don't know the teams in Basse. The big team that I know in Basse is Kute. I don't know the names of these teams. I don't know them, and God knows that. I thought we were going to have 20, 30 general secretaries. When I looked over the window, I saw over 150 people. I had goosebumps. And the next thing I had, you're being expelled because you attended training organized by Sadibu Kamaso. I didn't organize the training.
Well, maybe some power of influence somewhere at the top thought Sadibu is campaigning. Sadibu is trying to get the regional votes for the next elections. That brings me to my next question. 2026.
Well, if they think that's a campaign, that was a training exercise. Like you said, people lose elections and they disappear. How do we contribute to Gambian football? So that was not a campaign. Everybody there knows that there was no statement there that said, vote for Sadibu or vote for this person. All we did, we have the notes. Share the knowledge and experience that we have.
Well, I know 2026 is a long way, or maybe very close now, because we are now in a few days, we'll be in May. Looking at your team Restore Confidence, are you going to vie for the 2026 GFF presidential election? What are your chances? And currently, we understand the constitution has been amended at some point where the current executive, or maybe the current president, Kababajo, is not going to contest in the next election. How are those things shaping up?
It's a very interesting question. Okay, first of all, you ask if we are going to vie for the position next year.
Yes.
And as I say, it's not Sadibu, it's Team Restore Confidence. What we did as soon as we lost the elections, in order for us to maintain, the ideas that we have, to stick to the objectives, Team Restore Confidence was registered as a civil society organization. It doesn't mean we're coming to the GFF elections as the same civil society organization. We can register as a civil society organization to have the powers to go and conduct trainings because it's in our objectives, and that constitution was adopted, registered at the AG's chamber. So that is what is giving us the powers to conduct that in that capacity. Whether it is TRC would go for elections next year, somebody from Team Restore Confidence, a definite yes. There's a big yes in capital letters. Whether it will be Sadibu, or it will be Ato, or it will be Choro, or Mohammed, or one of my running mates, that is for TRC to decide. But definitely yes, TRC would. I want it, but I have a strong following. So it depends if my team says, oh, Mr. President, because in a democratic society, you don't over-exercise your powers. I'm not going to say, okay, guys, it's got to be me again. I have a team. I started it, but now there's a team behind me. So that has to happen. And to ensure this is done, we will sit together again and, try to consolidate again, talk to each other and see where our powers lie. But yes, we are going to contest for the elections, and we'll do the best we can to ensure that the narratives have changed. The other thing you asked was the current executive. I need to be very clear on this. It is the Constitution that has said it. It's the provisions of the GFF Constitution, not Sadibu.
Okay, start the amended version, because at some point there was no term limit.
Exactly.
Yes, it later
that
came
was in December 2018. That was the time we were facing the challenges of people saying we used $33,000 for a toilet and things like that. Yeah, you remember when I was campaign manager for Kaba then, and we had to convince the voters to give us the opportunity to come again, and that was one of the campaign promises. We are going to have have a 2-term limit, but then the 2014 to 2018 didn't count. So which means 2018 to 2022 was 1 term, 2022 to 2026 is another term. But the article there says all members. It didn't say the president.
Okay.
All members of the executive are eligible for re-election, but only once. It didn't say the president, let me clear. All members, so anybody who is there, from the president to the last executive.
President, first vice president, second vice president, third vice president.
Everybody.
Yeah.
Not the co-opted, because those ones have not been elected. They are co-opted. All members who have been elected are eligible for re-election, but only once. Although the 2014 to 2018 did not count. So the president to last, anybody who has been there 2 terms, you cannot. As per the provisions of the Constitution. Now we will see what is going to happen. And then, there's a provision in the RFA Constitution that didn't state that you only have to go for once. But the RFA presidents are elected, and the same Constitution says the RFA presidents are going to be elected at the regional football associations and confirmed at the General Assembly. So the 2-term limit applies to the RFA president as well. I hope I'm making sense. So the RFA presidents, the 2-term limit applies to you, unless you become an RFA president and you don't come to the GFF executive, which is inconsistent. So everybody there that has been elected twice, unless they amend again, and I pray not. So anybody who's been there, who served 2 terms, is not eligible for re-election.
Sadibu, just on a final note, under 2 minutes, what message would you like to send to young footballers, coaches, and also regional delegates as these regional elections approach?
Behind every goal, there are so many people behind the scenes that are making the job happen. The journalists reporting the news, the administrators ensuring that the rules are adhered to, the analysts making sure that they check all these things, the businesses looking at the investment opportunities. So it is not confined just to the players. So whatever we are doing, we have to try to be better. Other countries are going the next level. We cannot continue to measure the success of our football because of the team's performance in the AFCON. Our performance in the AFCON should be looked at on 2 fronts. Was it impact or legacy? What impact has our participation in the AFCON had in Gambian football? What is the impact? So it was more of a legacy for me, because you will hear that for the first time in the history of the Gambia, we've qualified the team to the AFCON. So it was more of a legacy. but there is no impact. So what we should do, this is a collective effort to ensure our football goes next level. There's a huge outcry about the ticket prices here in the Gambia when the GFF and EMC announced it. People will make noise. Why, if you ask me? Because on the performance, lack of accountability and lack of transparency. But if people understand where you're putting these resources into, if you come up with prices and you justify that, it is easy for people to absorb and go to town with it. So for the stakeholders, it is service above self. Whatever we are doing is for the good of the game and the country, because the generations yet unborn would come here and they will talk about the people who have done certain things. Why do they still talk about Biri Biri and them? Because of what they have done in this country. So the people who are running football, our football is at a crossroads now, and it is a do or die for us to ensure that our football goes to the next level. Like I said, it's not a personal thing for me whether it is Sadibu or not. It is the person who can run Gambian football. If there is somebody that has the capacity, that wants to come and vie for the elections, we are happy to have all those people. And as I said, democracy is the minds of the majority. Then we can do whatever we're doing so that Gambian football can develop for the rest of our lives. And then, you know, the structures are there for whoever's coming in to ensure they continue with the development process.
Sadibu Kamaso, thank you very much for your time coming on Qsports, and I'm sure we would have more of this in the build-up to the elections at the regional level, and also the main elections, the GFF presidency, whether Lamin Kababajo is going to contest again, the current executive members are going to contest again, or the constitution have been amended and, you know, we will have new faces. We will discuss all that on Qsports in subsequent editions. Thank you very much. We'll go for a break, and when we come back is the National Scorpions Fan Club. They are going to prepare for the Gambia-Algeria CHAN qualifiers at the stadium. The first official competitive game at the stadium since the 25th of March 2021 was the last time the Gambia played a competitive game at the Independent Stadium. Now it's refurbished, or remodeled if you like, using the words of the Ministry of Youth and Sports. After the break, we'll talk about that.
The art of juggling is a true spectacle of agility, coordination, and speed. A symbol of progression, precision, and mastery. "5G speed is like having the juggler in your pocket. With lightning-fast download and upload speeds, you'll easily be able to juggle even the busiest workdays. Whether you're a busy entrepreneur, a creative, or just someone who wants to stay connected, juggle your tasks with ease with QCell 5G speed. The future is here. It's fast, reliable, and efficient. First brought to you by QCell. We innovate, others follow.
Qmoney delsi nañ ak mbégte pour yombal seen dundin léegi mun ngaa jënda suñu bundle data package yi yépp bàyyi ko ca Qmoney wallet génna wala njëkk boo ko doon jëndee mun ngaa jënda suñu bundle data package yi doore ko 20 megabytes be 20 gigabytes nga dal di bànneexu internet data wàññite bu gën a màgga si réew mi dialal star 323 hash léegi nga tànna option 4 nga dal di jënda suñu bundle data package boo taamu génna wala njëkk boo ko doon jëndee ak Qmoney feyal lu tuuti ñu jokkale la si internet bu ànd ak kóolare si Gambia bi fii pour am si lu leer mun nga call 133 Qmoney suñu kalpe lii dafa ànd ak sarta yuñ tëral.
Welcome back and thank you very much for joining us. This is Qsports and I am Umudu Kajaga. Now we are going to talk about the Gambia's home game against Algeria in the under-23, or if you like, the CHAN qualifiers. One place to grab. If the Gambia can make it through over the two legs, they would make it to the CHAN for the very first time. Of course, when the Gambia is playing home, the fans would come in their numbers to support the national team. Is that going to be the case this time? Because if you look at the ticket prices, well, I would maybe certainly understand if the Gambia is going to play against Cote d'Ivoire, we're going to play against Senegal, we're going to play against Cameroon, Morocco, or Algeria, even at the senior level. If the ticket prices go up, yes, we look at inflation, we look at, when it comes to football, it's very expensive. In terms of development, you need proceeds to be able to develop the game. And at the Independence Stadium, the renovation cost the government almost $280 million. That's a lot of money. We understand all that, but the ticket prices, $5,000 for VIP, according to the Events Management Committee of the Gambia Football Federation. Covered pavilion, $1,000. Opposite the covered pavilion, $700. And scoreboard and the opposite scoreboard, $500. Well, this might be cheap prices for you, depending on your pocket, but it might be very exorbitant for so many football lovers, depending also on their pocket. Joining me in the studio is Seydou from the National Scorpion Fans Club. You've been preparing for this game. The last time you were at the stadium to support the Gambia was on the 25th of March, 2021. Oh, in fact, even that one was during the COVID. Yeah. Most of you had to come in after the game was over, then people were celebrating that the Gambia qualified for a historic Africa Cup of Nations. And tell us about your preparation for this game against Algeria.
Thank you so much, Gajaga, for inviting me in this platform. Anyway, we said good morning to our able listeners. Anyway, it's an opportunity to the Gambians. At least this has been a while now for the past 4 years. We have not been supporting our players in the Independence Stadium. So at least if CAF can able to give us this one, it's a privilege, I can say it. So at least we will seize this opportunity to thank CAF and then the Ministry of Sport. At the same time, Gambia Football Federation, at least they are the one who are in front of this. So well, the National Scorpion Fans Club, as you know, we are well prepared because of the game will take place in the nation here. And then for that being the case, at least we will try to have a 2-day camp before the game. We are trying to have a camp on the 1st of May at NYSS, inshallah, whereby we'll just be preparing for this CHAN team on Saturday on the 3rd.
Okay. In terms of the feeling, how is it buzzing up?
Yeah, at least it's been something that it's missing. So many people miss this opportunity. At least we can say that they miss this thing. At least supporting their players in the nation. At least with the National Scorpion Fans Club, we really miss it. To be frank, the lifestyle we have in Ivory Coast was so nice. And then, as you said it earlier on, since 2001, that for me, when I was going to support our team, the national team, by then, I have to snitch and then enter. So at least we can have the opportunity whereby we'll be going freely and and then support our nation. Wow, it's a good thing to the Gambians. At least, yeah, we are calling all of Gambians, let them try. We know that the ticket is costly, as you said it earlier on. It's too costly by looking at the pocket. It's not easy, to be frank. But at least we just appealing to the Gambians. This is the first time that at least CAF is giving us an opportunity. Let us just come. Maybe probably next game coming, the SMT will see how to reduce the prices, to be frank.
Looking at the stadium, looks very beautiful after this renovation. The pitch, the VIP stands, the opposite scoreboard and the other areas, as well as the dressing rooms. Are you impressed going back to the stadium now?
Of course, we are very impressed, and then we just want to remind our fans or the supporters that this time there will be a very big changes. The changes will be like they will start screening people right at the roundabout. As you can recall at Ivory Coast, you can see there were some barriers.
Yes, metal barriers.
So probably this time also there might be barriers whereby before you have access to the stadium, we must go through some screening.
Security checks.
Yeah, some security checks. Because at least we want to work standard We just don't want to be using that old model, you know, just to come late hours. And in Gambian, we are fond of doing that. You can just sit, you will be just sitting at your house up to 4 o'clock. You said you want to roast and enter. So what we are appealing to fans or the spectators, let them try to please come out as early as possible. Buy their tickets, because I was told that there will be no gate ticket. So it's like you have to buy your ticket prior before the game so that you can able to enter freely. But please, 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 what we are appealing is like there will be a very tight security checkup. Yes, there will be a very, very big tight security. And then whoever is coming, please let them just come up with their Gambian jersey, the vuvuzelas, as we know, Alice. It's been ambience that we all miss. You know, Gambian miss having such opportunity.
And any new song for this game? Or?
Yes, my guys are preparing so many songs, but for me, you know, I'm not good in singing. We have some vocalists, you know, that they are really doing very good, you know, Alice. That's why we are trying to have our camp on the 1st and on the 2nd. Then on the 3rd, we'll disseminate it to the public so that they will see a different National Scorpion fan club.
Well, we're looking forward to the game on the 3rd, on Sunday, to go and support the Gambia.
Well, as you know, Gambia, we have, with the National Scorpion Fans Club, we are still pledging to the public, moreover to this house. That's our able boss, the CEO, Mohamed Jah, and then my able sister, Ame Sise. Our hands are open to them, you know, let them try to come up and support the National Scorpion Fans Club, because we have road to so many private sectors, but still now no turnout. And then it's our home soil, you know. We can remember that QCell have done so many things for the National Scorpion Fans Club before we leave to Ivory Coast. So Mohamed Jah is listening probably, so he will call us before the game. And then we are calling all Gambians, please, this is the first time that CAF has already given us an opportunity whereby we have to go and support our boys. Although the ticketing, everybody is complaining, we all know that it's costly. By looking at the economic of this nation, it's not easy, it's too high. We are appealing to the SMT, let them see how best next time to reduce the ticket, please. But please let fans come up and support the Chan team, because that's what they need. They need fans behind them. We are the 12 months. So please, we are just appealing, because it is a shock to everybody. As I saw your page yesterday, you know, I know you are also...
Yeah, I know, man. those things. So many people wouldn't like it, but...
I just have a limit, but I have to talk on behalf of the fans. It's
absolutely,
costly, it's costly, but at least
the cost of ticket prices, yeah, you may disagree, but yes, that's it for the Gambia national team on Sunday, and we're looking forward to the game. All the best, and have a lovely weekend. Bye for now.
Thank you.